I don't care what you think, and you need to leave this instant or you're trespassing.
Actually, I own this house. These are the deeds.
7:13 a.m. And I'm looking at two police cruisers in my driveway, lights flashing, the kind of slow, rhythmic flash that just screams trouble. The lead officer, Sergeant Pacheco, his hands hovering near his belt like I'm a threat, an unstable individual they've been called out to neutralize, and I'm just standing there, holding my coffee mug, steam rising in the cool Carolina air. That moment, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, the familiar adrenaline spike of a potential threat, except this threat was wearing a polo shirt, not body armor, and the battlefield was my own goddamn front yard. 40 feet back, right on the edge of what I knew was my property line, stands Veronica Thorne, the queen of the Willow Creek Commons HOA, arms crossed tight, smirking behind those designer sunglasses like she hit the jackpot. It was the kind of smug, self-satisfied look that makes your blood pressure spike, the kind that screamed, "I have power, and you have nothing." She'd called 911 4 hours earlier, fabricating a story about a dangerous, possibly armed squatter refusing to leave. A classic swatting move, trying to get me hauled off my own land in handcuffs. Except I'm Jake Miller, 54, a 2-decade military veteran who just wanted to build a workshop in peace. The air should have smelled like fresh-cut grass and morning dew, but all I could smell was her desperation and the faint, lingering scent of burnt rubber from her last rage-induced exit. She didn't know it yet, but I had the one piece of paper, the original deed, the clear survey, that was about to flip her entire world upside down. What would you do if someone tried to get you arrested on your own land? Drop a comment. I'm Jake Miller, and I'm not the kind of guy who goes looking for trouble. 6 months ago, I bought 3.2 acres on the edge of the Willow Creek Commons subdivision outside Charlotte, North Carolina. The plan was simple. Convert the garage into a machine shop, build a proper engineering workshop, and find the kind of profound peace you can only appreciate after 20 years in uniform. The property is gorgeous, dominated by a magnificent 150-year-old oak tree whose vast canopy feels like a natural cathedral. When I bought this land, the 2018 survey clearly showed it was outside the HOA boundaries. I checked multiple times because I've heard the horror stories. Fines for gnomes, liens for paint colors, foreclosures over the placement of a basketball hoop. Willow Creek Commons is your standard upscale suburb, 127 homes, with $385 monthly dues, but silently rotting from the inside under the weight of one woman's need for control. Here's the twist. 6 months ago, right after I closed, Veronica Thorne, the HOA president, quietly filed fraudulent paperwork with the county to correct the boundaries, pulling my land into their jurisdiction without any certified notice or due process. Just bureaucratic theft executed by a single, determined sociopath. Veronica Thorne, 49, real estate agent, and HOA QN, wears pastel blazers like battle armor. Her voice has the warmth of a table saw, and the stories about her, foreclosures over late fees, targeting specific neighbors, especially those Reuben and the Kents, are legendary. She treated the HOA like her own personal fiefdom, not a voluntary association. Week 1, I got the certified letter, a $2,500 fine for my unapproved garage, a structure that had stood there for 20 years before the HOA even existed. I responded with my survey and deed. I'm not in your HOA. Please rescind the fine. Week 3, Veronica showed up, clipboard in hand, photographing my property and threatening a lien, claiming my mere presence was lowering property values. I told her to leave. Week 5, a new letter arrived. $5,000 plus $150 in daily penalties, threatening foreclosure. It was financial warfare disguised as community service. My neighbor Reuben, a retired machinist, brought over beer, shaking his head. They're bleeding you dry. Brother, that's the game. They want you to surrender your equity, your peace, your sanity. I called Lucia Brennan, a sharp attorney I'd helped previously. Jake, that's not just wrong. That's fraud, she confirmed. Boundary annexation without proper certified notice invalidates the whole thing. We had a case. I also learned Veronica was systematically targeting others, like Travis and Mallory Kent, fighting $8,000 in fines just for installing a standard-issue swing set for their toddler. They were contemplating selling their home just to escape the citations. Veronica was running a scam on 127 families, using the bylaws as a financial cudgel. I ignored her threats, relying on the law, but she went nuclear, filing a false police report for trespassing and verbal threats, which is how I ended up with 2 cops in my driveway. "Morning, officers," I said, calm, hands visible, employing the same measured cadence I used talking down nervous soldiers overseas. Sergeant Pacheco explained the report of criminal trespass and threats. I went inside, announcing my intentions with every step. "I'm opening a filing cabinet now, officers," and brought out my entire folder: survey, deed, title, and dashcam stills of Veronica on my property. Pacheco spent 5 tense minutes reviewing the documentation while Veronica stood back, radiating certainty, ready to see me marched off. Finally, Pacheco looked up. "Ma'am," he called out, his voice carrying clearly. "This is a civil dispute, not criminal trespass. Mr. Miller has documentation proving his property boundary. You'll need to resolve this through the courts." Her mask cracked. She stalked forward, shouting, her voice trembling with indignation. "Excuse me. I pay your salary through my taxes, and you're telling me you won't enforce." Pacheco cut her off, voice hard, final. "Ma'am, I don't enforce HOA bylaws. If you think he's violating a contract, hire a lawyer." She sputtered, wrenched open her Lexus door, and peeled out, the squeal of tires a final, infantile tantrum. Pacheco handed me his card. "Mr. Miller, off the record, document everything." She just tried to weaponize law enforcement. Don't underestimate how far they'll go. I realized this was now about forcing me into submission or total financial ruin. I called Lucia. She was furious. "Jake, she just flirted with malicious prosecution. If she'll lie to the police, she'll lie on the stand. I'm taking your case." Lucia immediately sent a harsh cease and desist, demanding they retract all fines, and filed a formal complaint with the county, arguing the annexation was void due to improper notice under North Carolina statute. Veronica's response was predictable. Call an emergency board meeting, spinning the story that I was a squatter attacking their authority and threatening to financially collapse the community. The spineless board, fearing her wrath and their own liabilities, voted to pursue all legal remedies. 2 days later, Travis and Mallory Ken approached me. 9 families were underwater on fines. One elderly woman was facing foreclosure over $1,800 that had spiraled into $10,000 in fees. Veronica was running a full-blown financial scheme built on fear and inflated penalties. That night, Ruben and I sat with beers. "She's got yacht club energy in a kiddie pool subdivision," he observed. My phone buzzed. An unknown number with a grainy photo of my truck. "We're watching." I installed 6 security cameras immediately, creating a fortress of documentation. I wasn't rattled by the threat, but I was royally pissed off by the sheer audacity of the intimidation. Week 7, the HOA filed a lawsuit to enforce covenants. Lucia responded with counterclaims for fraud and abuse of process. Discovery began, and Lucia subpoenaed everything: bank statements, meeting minutes, vendor contracts, the works. Her paralegal soon found $140,000 missing from the HOA financials, buried under vague titles. Critically, $18,000 was paid directly to Veronica's own LLC for redundant management services, services already covered by the contracted firm. This wasn't just petty tyranny. This was sophisticated embezzlement, stealing from the same families she claimed to protect. The harassment escalated. I woke up to orange code violation stickers plastered on my mailbox and garage, smelling of spite, and leaving a gummy, awful residue. Ruben caught an inspector using my property as a vantage point to photograph another neighbor's roof. I logged everything into my Google Doc, every timestamp, every interaction, every piece of evidence. Then Lucia discovered the core scheme, the smoking gun. 3 properties foreclosed by the HOA in the last 2 years were bought at auction by Veronica's LLC and board members' family trusts at 40 to 50% below market value. The pattern was clear. Fine a family until they couldn't afford the ballooning fees, force foreclosure, insiders buy cheap, flip for profit, sometimes netting $80,000 to $100,000 per property. This wasn't local politics. This was organized fraud, meeting the criteria for federal RICO racketeering. Lucia immediately filed an amended counterclaim, turning a petty boundary dispute into a serious criminal exposure. I agreed to go public, with Mallory Kent, the journalist, pitching the story to the Charlotte Post. We needed pressure. Veronica heard we had the foreclosure documented. Trimble delivered a settlement offer via Zoom. Drop all fines, remove all liens, a complete clean slate. If I signed a broad NDA and released all claims. I stared at the camera and laughed. Tell Veronica I don't negotiate with con artists. See you in court. Lucia grinned. The offer meant she was utterly cornered. That night, my phone buzzed with a certified letter notification, not from the HOA, but from a title company. Notice of foreclosure sale. Willow Creek Commons, HOA common property. The HOA itself was being foreclosed on by a bank holding a $1.2 million construction loan they had defaulted on 18 months prior. Auction in 30 days. My engineer brain lit up. If the HOA lost its common property, the pool, the clubhouse, the very land the covenants relied on, its legal standing evaporated. I just figured out how to buy the HOA, Lucia. I'm going to use the mechanism she relied on, foreclosure, to dismantle her entirely. North Carolina law allows the common area owner to petition for dissolution if the HOA is insolvent, which it absolutely was. The play was clear. Buy the common areas at auction, prove insolvency, dissolve the HOA, and transfer the land to a Democratic Community Land Trust. I needed $875,000. I secured a $400,000 bridge loan from my brother, Caleb, who saw the justice in the fight. Mallory's article dropped the next day, went instantly viral, and my GoFundMe for the remaining $275,000 hit $180,000 within 72 hours. People who hated HOA corruption flooded the account with donations, seeing this as a fight for all of them. 2 days before the dissolution hearing, Detective Morrison from the DA's office called. A warrant was being issued for Veronica Thorne's arrest, felony embezzlement, fraud, and perjury. Cornered animals are dangerous, Lucia warned. 7:15 a.m., hearing day. Veronica's Lexus pulled up. She got out. No makeup, no armor, just a desperate woman. She approached, voice shaking. Jake, please. I'll resign. Just don't go through with this. If you do this, I lose everything. My license, my business, my entire life. I looked her dead in the eye. You should have thought about that before you turned this neighborhood into your personal ATM. She stood frozen, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. Then she got back in her car and drove away slowly, like heading to a funeral. 7:45 a.m., courthouse steps. Trimble's son and a bouncer approached me, implying veiled threats about my future business permits and clients drying up. Are you threatening me on courthouse property, in front of witnesses? I asked, completely unfazed. They backed off instantly. Lucia filed a harassment complaint right before we walked inside. The courtroom was packed, 60 homeowners, 3 TV crews. Veronica walked in with a new, terrified lawyer. Lucia presented the dissolution petition methodically, detailing the $1.2 million debt, the $240,000 embezzled funds, my ownership of the common property, and the clear insolvency statute that mandated dissolution. Veronica stood abruptly, ignoring her lawyer's desperate tugs. This is a sham. Jake orchestrated this from the beginning. He's stealing our neighborhood because the courts are rigged. If I took compensation, I earned it. Her voice was shrill, manic. Miss Kensington, I advise you to stop, the judge warned, tapping her pen impatiently. No, she screamed. Garrett's a bully manipulating. The side door opened. Detective Morrison entered, approaching the bench. Judge Vickers read the document handed to her. Miss Kensington, there is an outstanding warrant for your arrest. Detective, proceed. Silence. Morrison's voice was calm, professional. Veronica Thorne, you're under arrest for felony embezzlement, fraud in the second degree, and perjury. You have the right to remain silent. The uniformed officer stepped forward. Click. The handcuffs closed, the metallic sound echoing in the silent courtroom, a final, definitive judgment. Garrett, Veronica shrieked, whipping her head toward me, mascara streaking down her face. You did this. You ruined my life. You'll all regret. Morrison guided her, sobbing, to the exit. Judge Vickers adjusted her glasses. Well, that was instructive. Petition for dissolution is granted. This court finds Willow Creek Commons HOA demonstrably insolvent and engaged in systematic fraud. Lucia Brennan was appointed receiver. The courtroom erupted, not chaos, but pure, unadulterated celebration. Hugging, crying, cheering. "Brother, you took down a whole empire," Reuben shouted, his voice thick with emotion. Outside, reporters swarmed. "This isn't about winning," I told the camera. "It's about 127 families getting their neighborhood back, making sure no one else gets steamrolled by corrupt bureaucracy. We're forming a community land trust. Homeowners control their destiny now." Later that evening, watching the sunset over my workshop, my daughter called. "Dad, you're everywhere. Are you okay?" "Better than okay, sweetheart. I'm free." We all are. Across the street, Travis and Mallory's kids played in the yard. No citation fear, no inspector anxiety. The air smelled like freedom. I came here to build a workshop and live in peace. I got both, but I also got something better, a community worth fighting for. So, here's my question for you. Got an HOA nightmare story? Drop it in the comments below. You are absolutely not alone, and your story matters. Maybe together we can shine a light on the next Veronica before she destroys another neighborhood. And if you want to see more stories about everyday people taking down corrupt systems, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know if you think Judge Vickers should have made Veronica pay me back in garden gnomes. We'll be reading the best comments. Next time, a homeowner in Florida who discovered her HOA president was running a Ponzi scheme. You won't believe what she did about I.